Today I will expose, I will reveal, for you have entered into a time and a season of undercover, where I will bring out from the covers the truth. For there have been too many lies, one lie after the other, covered in high national positions that have affected the globe, that have affected the seas, that have affected the skies. America, you're not as secure as you think you are. But in my kingdom, there are people that are praying, and there are prophetic words, and the truth from my word that will preserve my nations for the purpose.
Good day, good day. It's God Says Ministries, the House of Fire, and I'm Prophet Tavis. So, there's another elephant in the room. A large elephant. And that elephant is called climate change. This narrative that is being put out by the One World Order, the guys who believe that they have all the answers for everybody on earth, and paying millions of dollars to a young girl to be their face and to excite and form a riot amongst the young people about a lie they are trying to push on everybody. Climate change is a narrative for the New World Order. Climate change is a narrative for the deep state. Climate change is a narrative for 15-minute cities. Cities that contain people in a bubble, basically, that they can control. Climate change is probably the biggest hoax perpetrated on man in the last century. It started with we were going to have an ice age, and now we are in global warming. That the seas are going to rise. I notice many people, when I speak about this, saying the seas are rising, such and such a place is sinking. Well, there's a big difference between land sinking and seas rising. A big difference. Where land sinks like a sinkhole and seas rise. As I've told you before, I'm an ex-commercial fisherman. You can see behind me expedites of mine, fished on the ocean for over a third of my life before God took me off and put me in the bush of Uganda and India. And I launched out of a harbour that's in Port Alfred on the Cowie River, which is approximately, the harbour wall is about 150 odd years old. The town itself is about 180 years old. Most of the original town that's still there, houses in the flat where they've been built, are below sea level and level with the sea. But they're like 150 years old. When a big spring tide comes, the seawater actually pushes out of the gutters, the storm drains, onto the streets. But that's for the last 100 years. With a high tide, spring high tide, and a big sea, it does that. The harbour wall is still the original harbour wall they built. It's slowly crumbling because of time. But the level of the water has not changed. Has not changed one bit. This climate change is a hoax. It's a lie to frighten people into these 15-minute cities where they can have full control over the population. If you are a Christian, a born-again Christian, or a Christian by name only, then you should know the book of Job. Then you should know chapter 38 to 41, where God lays out in detail how the earth functions and how it was created and who guides its steps. Climate change is a hoax. Yes, they can manipulate climate to a degree and make you believe there's a problem. But let's look at it. CO2, carbon monoxide, CO2. You breathe in oxygen and you breathe out carbon monoxide. Plants breathing carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. If the CO2 level is high, then the forests and all your plantations should be thriving. Thriving. They should be thriving. Now I'm talking about this because the Holy Spirit has prompted me to talk about it. Because the Creator created laws that govern how this earth runs. Yes, to an extent man can manipulate those laws, but those laws are still in effect. Let me give you an example of where we are heading. Many of you must have watched the Hunger Games. Many of you. The series The Hunger Games. That's where we are heading. Where the one world order tells you exactly when you're going to eat and when you are not. Tells you exactly where you will drive to and where you will not. And then the Hunger Games had competitions to see if certain cities, 15-minute cities, could get bonuses for their cities. Putting man against man. Well, there's nothing new under the sun. That was taking place under the Romans, where they put man in a theater. Man against man, man against lions, where they fed the Christians to the lions. Literary Hunger Games. That's where we are heading. Where you toe the line, or you get put in a city where they dictate when you eat or when you don't eat. Climate change is their narrative to drive fear into the population of nations in order to get you all rounded up in smart cities where you want to leave the city, you will have to go jumping through a whole lot of red tape. and you'll have a credit score where the cameras are watching you all the time. This is the one world order plan, the globalist plan. They don't care about you. You are their cannon fodder. You are their currency. They actually want to eliminate the populations of countries so they can control what is left. Go and read Job chapter 38 to 41 and see who's in control of the creation. Yes, man can manipulate the creation of God to a degree, but the laws will always bring it back into alignment with what God has created. This climate change is a money-making, evil hoax and lie upon the nations. And those who come back to me say, but it is, such a place is sinking. Is it sinking or is the sea rising? Because there's a huge difference between sinking land and rising water. Because if it rises in the northern hemisphere, the water, it has to rise also in the southern hemisphere. A glass cannot be half full on the one side and 3/4 full on the other side of the glass. I've given you an example of 150-year-old harbor walls that the water has not moved at all. In fact, the town is level with the seawater in some places. When I actually lived in a house, rented a house, lived in a house in the flats on the town, and you could dig a hole for a pole in the backyard and come back a couple of hours later and that hole would be half full of water because of the tide rising. That's how the tide is saturated that ground under the town. And when you came back a couple of hours later, the water was gone again as the tide receded. If we have a problem with rising water, that town should be a minimum of 6 foot underwater, according to their calculations. According to their calculations. Now, with the manipulation of the weather, man has worked out that he can shift rain away from places and make it rain on other places. He can't create the clouds, but he can shift the clouds into position where they do create storms or they create drought. And they have been doing this for years now. And they're saying, look, this place is flooding. This place has got drought for years and years. They have manipulated God's creation, moving storms away, creating storms in other places, using what is already there, using what is already available on God's creation. Climate change is a lie, especially man-made climate. One volcano burp, one eruption on one day puts more CO2 than all the cows in the whole of the world in a year into the atmosphere. One volcano puts more CO2, carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere in one day than all the cows in the world in a year. And they want to get rid of the cows because they say that they are causing climate change. People, you have been brainwashed into believing a lie. Into believing a lie. We have at least 18 volcanoes blowing their tops for days on end at any given time. How much CO2 are they emitting into the atmosphere? Yet the earth is still balanced because of its laws that are put in place by its creator. Go and read Job chapter 38 to Job chapter 41, where God describes how his creation works. Do not fall for this garbage. They are trying to put you into fear so they can lock you into 15-minute cities where they can surveil you and tell you when you can eat and when you can't eat. Just like they showed us, their prophets of Satan showed us the Hunger Games. For as God does nothing without revealing to his prophets, so does the devil. And he reveals it to you through Hollywood and through politicians speaking right in front of you of what they're going to do. Take Joe Biden talking about the Nord Stream pipelines. Before it even happened, he told you exactly what is going to happen. It's so blatant, it's in your face, and you don't even see it. You don't even see it. This is the biggest hoax and con on the human race. The one world order is trying to come in ahead of time to usher in the Antichrist, and it's not his time yet. It's not his time yet. But he tries to change the times of God, and he can't. When people are awake to their Creator and their eyes are seeking him, the devil has no choice but to hide again. People, don't fall for this lie. Do not fall for this lie. It's a hoax, and they're making millions and billions off this hoax. Electric car is 95% mind. The electric car they're trying to push on you is 95% mind. And what charges your car? A coal power station. It is a fraud on the people. A fraud on the people. The very car that they're claiming you should be buying, electric cars, is charged by a coal power station. All the windmills are 100% mined for what they are made from. They're dug out of the ground and they're created with the power station of coal. %70 of your solar panels are mined and created with the power station of coal. It's a hoax. It's a hoax to put everybody in a bubble they can control. And those who fight against it will disappear. We outnumber them probably 1,000,000 to 1. It's a few who call themselves the elite who are trying to control the masses. And it's time for the masses to awaken and step into the revival that God has for His people. Step into the glory presence of God and stop rejecting the knowledge that is right in front of you. In plain sight, the devil is showing off at the Grammys, at the Super Bowls around the world, at the World Cups, at the Olympic Games. Watch those shows beforehand. They are demonic. Demonic. And it's right in front of your face. Climate change is a hoax. It's a lie. It's a narrative they are pushing in order to lock you away in smart cities that they can control you and surveil you wherever you go. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to. But I'm running out of conspiracies because all the others have come true. If you want to call me a conspiracy theorist. But I am a prophet of God. I'm a messenger of God. And His word says He's in control. He designed the earth with laws. Man might be able to manipulate it to a degree, but it all goes back to laws. People, it's time to wake up. You are being brainwashed into a hoax. First it was an ice age. Now it's global warming. Now it's climate change. If there's too much CO2, carbon dioxide in the air, then we should have forests all over the place. Your garden should grow out of control. Because we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. And so do all the animals on the earth. And the plants? Well, they return the favor. They breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. Your garden should be a jungle from the abundance of CO2 they are talking about in the atmosphere. You should have a garden that's out of control and hard to keep if the balance is out. But the balance is balanced by the laws of God. Use the brain God has given you and open your eyes to the truth. God bless you, and may His favor drip from every part of you. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.